Welcome to the Sports Show. So much to talk about tonight and so little time between the University of Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings, the NHL lockout. Lou Nanne, welcome back to the set.
Nice to see you, Michael.
Sid, let's start with your official statement on the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, I didn't think they played very well today. Although Arizona has one of the best defenses in the league. They don't score many points, but they do have an outstanding defense. And they're supposed to have a lousy offense, and the Vikings are supposed to have a good offense. But today I thought the Arizona offensive line I'm talking about, was much better than the Viking offensive line. I didn't think they give the quarterback much protection today. He was fighting for his life today.
But fortunately, Arizona has a real quarterback problem there. Patrick?
Well, 7 sacks, so he couldn't have been that comfortable in the pocket, right?
He wasn't comfortable and he couldn't move. That was his problem.
Well, Ponder was an awful game. Throws for 58 yards and you win. You got to feel good, huh? That's as bad as he could play, and you still win the game. So, defense is much better than I thought it was going to be.
Lou, here they sitting as 5-2, and everybody thought 2-5 might be the norm for this team at best.
And that's what I was going to say. When you're winning and you're saying they're not playing well, that's a good sign because the team continues to find a way to win. And they are 5 wins. That's pretty darn good. It's much more than a lot of people expected going into the season.
You got 3 guys here, by the way, old enough to remember when we used to whine when Bud's great defenses would win 6-3. And Bud would lecture us just to appreciate the victories. I don't think Leslie is powerful enough to lecture us to just shut up and enjoy the victories.
Don't care how you win, just so the score is good at the end.
I'll tell you one thing you got to say, though. This draft class, whoever's all responsible for it, they did a pretty good job with Khalil and Smith and Blair Walsh and
Robinson. They don't have a stiff on the draft. The 6th pick, this tight end, Ellison.
He's playing a lot.
They think he's going to be another Kleinsasser.
Yep.
They got the Blanton kid from Notre Dame. You don't hear much about him. They love him. There's no chance Winfield will be back next year because Robinson, when the draft choice, would be playing that corner. They got Walsh, maybe the best kickoff guy in the league. He never fails to kick in the end zone, doesn't miss any field goals, and they did a good job last year too. They got some pretty good kids. You got to give Spielman credit. They've done a pretty good job. Scott Sedwell credit. They've done a good job, and they had a really maneuver to get Harrison Smith. And they did a fantastic job with that. That's what I wrote a lot about tomorrow, how they got him by making that deal with Cleveland and getting enough, gave up a 2nd and a 4th draft choice to get Smith. That's a lot to give up to get a guy.
Patrick?
Yeah, he's been, boy, they haven't had a safety forever, too, since Darren Sharper had his big season here. So that comes in handy. And it was, that Skelton threw the ball right to him, but at least he ran it in the end zone for a touchdown. So what the heck? He had to make a couple of guys miss. He's been good. And defense been just, as I said, defense has been a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But Arizona's can't protect. That's 30 sacks in 4 games.
Boy,
30 sacks in 4 games.
So, Lou, you're 5-2. You're in the driver, not the driver's seat, but you're positioned well. Except everybody that knows football knows the second half of the season is going to be a lot more brutal than the first half of the season. How do you position this if you're marketing this team?
Well, you have to remember that they still do have games with the Packers and the Bears. It's going to tell a lot, but you marketed just what Sid's been saying. They got a lot of young guys in the last 2 years that have really come through for them, and they look like their team's going to be a lot of fun. Next year, they'll probably go to improve the linebacking, and once they do that, this team's got a lot of good parts to it. And if they stay healthy, they can go a long way. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, you look at Cutler, you never know how he could blow up at the drop of a hat.
Right now, you'd have to be generous to give the quarterback a C+, though, in my opinion.
All I was thinking about today, because I was also watching the Redskins on TV, and imagine if they would have got a Griffin. Yeah. Boy, does he look good.
They have one receiver. And how can a quarterback do much with one receiver? Percy Harvin, they got one receiver on the whole team.
And Rudolph.
Huh?
And Rudolph.
Rudolph, good, but not great.
Let me tell you
How
something
about
else.
Jerome Simpson? We've been waiting for him for 6 weeks.
But today, just that one interference call that set up the touchdown is really all
Yeah.
they need from him. I had a long talk with him the other day. I don't know what's going on in this kid's mind. There's a reason he was available, obviously, but you like him.
Well, there's some reason. You talking about Simpson?
Yeah.
Well, there's some reason Cincinnati didn't keep him with the record he had. So, and believe me, health had nothing to do with him not playing last Sunday. There was something going on. They took $60,000 out of his pocket, and he claimed he was, and they didn't play him. So there's some reason why they didn't play him.
Louis, how many times did you get tempted into taking a player that you knew had talent and they were just so appetizing, you see them so, and everybody told you about the character issues, but you just saw, all you could see was how good they were. How many times do you remember doing that and getting burned by that? Where once you got them inside, you said, now I see what everybody else was talking about.
One. And then that was that kid from
The
Philadelphia.
missing link?
No, Link. I like the Link.
Gets.
No, I don't have no problem with the Link. The Link
That was
was
a
fine.
sound more special.
Yeah,
He
but-
wanted Link.
No, we drafted Madonna in the first round, and we drafted the missing link in the second round. And I said, so now we're going to draft the lawyer in the third round. Link to take care of Madonna and the lawyer to take care of missing link. But remember the tall centerman from Philadelphia that
Todd Bergen.
Todd Bergen had a great deal of talent. That was it. After that,
I did what you
we
did
wanted-
with two basketball teams, and I could care less about their character. We took a guy, Pep Saul, from Rochester. We got Boston. We got Baltimore to get him. Nobody would have touched him with a 10-foot pole because his wife was an absolute maniac.
I hope she's no
But
longer with
I
us.
hope, man.
But I
This
could
is Saul,
care
are you out
less.
there?
He could shoot two-handed shots, and that would help Mike a lot.
What about, and by the way, before we forget, Slater Martin passed away. Who was Slater Martin?
Well, he was a great one. I'll show you what we did in the draft. We won the championship, and next year, our top three draft choices: Mickelson, territorial choice; Bobby Harrison, Michigan, number 2, and Martin, number 3. And they started the next year with Pollard and Mike. And he was the best defensive basketball player maybe I've ever seen.
Point guard.
Bob Cousy was one of the greatest players ever played. The Lakers beat Boston 19 straight times, and Cousy never went into double figures against him. We finally couldn't afford him, and we traded him to St. Louis. He played on 3 championships.
What do you mean you couldn't afford him? You guys controlled the salary.
No, they had to pay him $600 instead of $400.
I did him a favor. He wasn't making no money.
That's nice of you, man. That's
He's
who
making-
you are.
Doogie,
That is
He
who
was
you
making
are.
$3,000,
Yeah.
and we weren't winning. We had lost Mike and Pollard by then, so let him go. Ben
Doogie
Kerner
Martin,
wanted him.
I met him in Houston at the All-Star game I covered in the late 80s, and interesting cat, still bitter about the salaries back then, and
Really?
upset about all the money the players then were making.
Did he ever mention the guy that was holding back the salaries?
No, it was just the whole general concept that a
general.
guy who played then had to go work like Louis did.
Yeah.
The guy played his career, then had to go work his rear end off to make money.
in the summer.
Take a break, come back, stay with us.
Yeah.
I just stopped by there the other day and saw Pat and the crew and had some pasta. Man, they make a good pasta there, too.
Etouffee? Did you have etouffee?
No, I had the...
Crawfish etouffee.
no, I've heard that's
Fabulous.
pretty good, but I just had the seafood pasta that was by itself.
One of the highlights of my life, the night Sid and I and a couple other guys went out for crawfish in Shreveport when we were down there for the, whatever we called the Independence Bowl back then. The Gophers were
I
down
was
there.
with you. The food was never worse.
We had Sid didn't get the concept that you were supposed to suck them out of the deal.
was he
He
doing,
tried
trying
to
to crack
peel the
'em?
damn things. It was
with you. It was
it
terrible.
was hard work. Yeah, but it was a great game in a high school stadium. It was beautiful.
Let's get an official statement from you on the University of Minnesota's football, where it's at, and all that they went through this week with the North Carolina game and all that went on.
Well, here's the thing. It was the wrong thing to do. I mean, they could have used that $800 to give John Anderson lights and a covered batting cage
Right, still
that
had
you
some
don't
left
have.
over.
Yeah.
That you don't have. But Jerry went crying to about it. He wanted to get rid of the game, and the guy did it.
Norwood Teague.
Let's put it this
But
way.
Maturi was already talking about it in April, right? Weren't they talking in Mexico?
It was been done for a long time ago. If Norwood Teague had any idea
What the reaction would
the
be?
reaction would be, he'd have never done it in a million years. And I don't think Jerry would have either. This thing has been brutal. It's the biggest story in town.
Well,
You took care of him Saturday morning.
you tell
Lots of people did.
you know, we got a lot of Scandinavians in this state.
Yep.
And we like our money, and to give them the idea that you're taking, as I wrote, you're taking $800,000 and burning it in the middle of a parking lot doesn't sit well with
Nope.
with people. If they get a home game somehow, I think it sounds like they're still trying to get out of that New Mexico State deal and get a home game. Then I guess they could break even. But it's just, you know, I think if it was somebody, Oklahoma or somebody that you knew you're going to get your rear end kicked by. But North Carolina, they got beat by Duke last night.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think they're going to get a home game because they got 2 games with New Mexico State, 2-16 and 2-18, and they give up 1 game. So I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah. Oh, they were 18. They got New Mexico State too.
Yeah.
You know what, New Mexico?
I don't think
they
that's
might
written
add
in
an
stone,
extra
though.
game. They just might add an extra game.
You know what,
You
Louis?
mean
You know
add a
what?
13th
You know
game?
what? You know what it
No,
cost to get New Mexico State here in 2016? $800,000.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's what it costs to get these
and,
teams.
And you
now.
can get North
See,
Dakota
that's
State
your-
for $300,000.
Yeah, but not when you already got one of
Well,
those
yeah,
scheduled.
yeah.
That's your big problem. You can't compete with Nebraska, Alabama. They want these.
Nebraska gave Arkansas State $1 million.
Yep.
Yeah, and the new controller of University of Minnesota Athletic Department told me that Ohio State gave Colorado $1.1 million
Yeah.
to play a game.
Yep.
And that's the same thing with basketball as far as
Yeah.
Tubby goes. They can't afford
Well, the
what
old
they-
days of paying a school $75,000 to come into your place to play basketball, those days are over.
It's a bidding war. But
That-
Louis, to Patrick's point, what we were talking about, does it make it more difficult to raise money if you're going out there and somebody's saying, "Wait a second, you don't need my money. You just you forked out $800."
It's a mistake that Sid said if they'd have known the kind of reaction, they'd have never done it. But it's done, and now they got to live with it. The short term, it's going to hurt them in fundraising a little bit. But like everything else, it'll be forgotten, and
Let me tell you,
people will
a couple of guys
come
I
across.
know,
Yeah, but
they went to them for money, and he says, "Get that $800,000."
Well,
Hold it.
He's- he
Well, when
wins
I
it.
hear that, I gotta address this. This drives me nuts.
Okay.
If anybody wants to make an excuse why not to give, they don't want to give.
Yeah.
So don't give me your
the
friends.
other
then
thing is, if
I've
he
been
goes
trying to
and-
get you to
Maybe
give.
you wanna make
That's
an
the way I
excuse.
want it. No, I want you to make up the $800,000 different. Will you do that for us?
Beat Iowa and Michigan. Beat
I'm
Michigan.
giving them
beat
450,000.
Michigan State, Somebody else.
They
and
got
nobody
it.
will care.
No.
That's
That
my-
was the
You
banquet.
and a few other guys that got 450,000 sitting there.
Yeah, but that's from the banquet. We
That's
need
what-
individuals to give
I
it.
know, yeah.
He keeps counting that
I know.
450, doesn't
He
he?
keeps counting it. But
I'll tell you what, before I give them any more money, I'll take care of charities and people. That's where my money will go. Al Rubinger and I just built a gym for the Tar Academy.
yeah, but you got enough to give even
Well,
more than
I-
that. That's what I'm telling you about. That's what
You
I
got
was
more
thinking.
than I got.
No, I wish I did. I wish I did.
Because you take care of that.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. You and I will compare net worths. We'll do it even on TV. And whoever's got the most has to make the big donation. I'm ready
fair?
to do that.
How do I know you're telling the truth?
I'll get in on that contest too.
Did you hear Sid says, "How do I know if you're telling the
tell the
truth?"
truth.
Who would ever, Sid of all people, who never questioned your book
University's
work,
not
of
gonna-
Let me
course.
say, Phil
put it this
Nelson,
way.
now,
I'll go on record.
Yeah.
I'll take care of the children's hospital. I'll take care of people like
That's
that.
great. That's
Somebody is homeless.
Yeah.
They need the money, more of my money. Mayo Clinic needs more of my money.
That's
No.
good.
Okay.
That's good. We like that.
University's got
Okay,
all
let's
get
talk
from
Yeah,
about
that.
let's go ahead.
Phil Nelson.
You gave him 50,000, so
I'm
you
trying.
gave him the world.
No, I didn't.
Said
I
you're
don't
an
have it.
incredible-
Hang on.
charitable
Hold
guy.
that thought through the break. 50,000 is what Louis gave.
No.
And you
He
gave
does know I
450,
did.
but it wasn't really
No.
450 because it wasn't your money.
It was the banquet money.
Wasn't it? 'Cause they had
Take
the
a
bank.
break. Come back. Stay with us.
They had the bank.
Stop on by and see what they might have that will meet your eyes. Yeah, Carousel Audi, Bruce Bonine, and the whole group out there. Try that A4. Try the A7. I like an SUV. I like that Q7 a lot. Welcome back to the sports show.
All right, Sid had the
before
scoop.
we got sidetracked.
Sid
a
had the
touch.
scoop on Phil Nelson's going to start. I was in the office Friday. And now Gopher fans, Gopher fans are getting like Twins fans. They're because of the 800,000 thing that blew up. They're mad about everything now. They're mad they're breaking the kid's red shirt. This isn't game 11. He's going to play 6 games. What's the problem? That's a pretty good freshman year for any quarterback in the country, 6 games. You're not going to be a freshman, walk in and play from game 1, especially when there's a senior. He's getting to play 6 games. Shut up.
Well, unless
they had no choice.
Well, even if they didn't have a choice, it's a good move.
Shortell can't play. He's all through for the season. And
you mean he can't play because he's no good or he's hurt?
He's got tingle in his kill center.
Well, even if he could play, he can't play.
Yeah, and Gray can't play.
What if Gray gets healthy?
He can't play quarterback.
What if Gray gets healthy and you think he can go to a bowl
wide
game?
receiver?
Well, but if he's healthy enough.
Nelson.
No way.
Nelson is their quarterback, and he's a quarterback of the future.
And if he plays,
they gave him some opportunity to, as Pat was just pointing out, to learn as a redshirt, but they were always looking at him. If the quarterback situation wasn't really solid, they were going to start this kid somewhere along the line. And
he could have 42 starts, Louis, in his career. What's wrong with 42
by
starts?
that time, you and I, we have different sources. But I'm telling
pretty
you
good source.
Yeah, so do
Jerry
I.
Kill's a pretty good
Well,
source.
what if Shortell was healthy?
Well, then he didn't tell you what he told me.
No idea.
What if he was healthy?
They brought 2 kids up, a wide receiver and a running back. They had no idea. I talked to the quarterback coach every day, and they had no idea bringing him up unless they actually had him.
So they were willing to go 0-6.
This is not
true. They were willing to go 0-6.
Well, it sounded though.
Let's go see Jerry Kill.
We're going to do that.
Jerry Kill.
We're going to go over there tomorrow.
It sounded like during the
And bring your net worth with you.
yeah, get all that out of the way at one setting, okay? It sounded like as the week moved on, Kill got frustrated and said, we're not going to Wisconsin not knowing if we got a healthy quarterback or not. Let's do it.
And plus that, you got 4 years with the guy. You got plenty of time to recruit another quarterback, and they have another
They got
quarterback.
one coming
They
from
got one
Illinois.
coming from- yeah, that's
Patrick,
right.
Cavalier.
Yeah.
Patrick, you mentioned it, though.
Louis,
Oh.
I go to practice every day, Louis. If they were going to play him, he'd be working with the first or second team. And he never worked with the first or second team.
Okay.
And I was there at practice.
You go to practices?
Media
No,
guy allowed
week,
to practice.
last week he didn't work. Who worked with the first team then?
When you were there.
Who were last week? Who worked
Until
with
last week.
Well,
Until last week. When Shortell couldn't go and Greg, then they worked him every day.
yeah.
That's the first time he worked with the first team.
Well,
And that's what we're
good.
talking about.
I'm there every day. Don't tell me,
6
Louis.
games.
I know a little more about that.
By
than
the
you do.
way, last night I was watching
Go quick, we got to go
Maryland. They broke a kid's red shirt to come in, their hotshot freshman to come in for the last series of the game.
Really?
Because they wanted to beat North Carolina State. They broke a kid's quarterback's red shirt.
I'm not going to ask Louis what he'd do because I know the answer to that. Take a break, come back.
He'd say he got hurt and try to get.
There it is, Taste of the NFL. Wow, Minnesota Vikings and Gallo Wine at midseason rally on Tuesday, October 30th at Bar Abilene and Up Down. The event is open to the public and free of charge. Donations to the Kick the Hunger Challenge to support the Second Harvest Heartland Food Bank right here in Minnesota are encouraged. Get autographs and mingle with current Vikings, Jasper Brinkley, Jamarcus Sanford, alumni players Chuck Foreman and Randall McDaniel. Sample food in a variety of food stations along the fabulous Gallo Wines. TasteOfTheNFL.com. Yes, TasteOfTheNFL.com will take you everywhere you want to go. And, of course, another party coming up in November as well. Gopher basketball program was hit hard, too, this week.
Well, I think they have a pretty good team. I mean,
But, with the Mbakwe thing and all those things.
the Mbakwe thing, the main reason he brought Mbakwe back.
Because Mbakwe committed to him.
That's right. Mbakwe could have turned pro. There were agents.
And he graduated already.
There were agents willing to give him a lot of money. A lot of money. He could have written a check for a lot of money. And he stayed, and that's why he kept him.
I want to get through a couple quick topics. Do Gopher basketball quick, and then we'll move on to the
Saul
NHL.
Smith, the Stubby's son and assistant coach, arrested on suspicion of DWI at 2:20 a.m. today. Not good. not good one day after they get Mbakwe cleared down in Miami to back. It's just a kick in the shins.
It's a bad week for the university. NHL lockout, they throw this proposal out. They dress it up like it's a great proposal. Upon further review, the players say our counter proposal isn't reflective of what you guys are offering.
Well, no, the NHL proposal was pretty good. With the Players Association came back with 3 proposals in 10 minutes, 2 on paper, 1 verbally, that weren't very good. That really, everything they're looking at is out of future earnings. They won't come down to today's earnings. And one of the things that Fear keeps saying is, well, we're going to lose $1.6 billion out of future earnings. Well, you don't have future earnings. The contract's over. Well, are we going to lose $40 million because we never got a contract to do something we wanted to do?
Handicap, is it a November thing it gets done? Is it a December thing? What do you think?
Well, I'm still hopeful it's going to be done by the end of November. But if it's not, then it could go all the way. And the reason why, you might lose the big...
the outdoor game?
The outdoor game that's got to be done probably in the next 10 days. We got 100,000 tickets to print.
The guys they follow in the Toronto media, though, are talking about maybe next week. They think it's moving.
That's what I think.
Yep.
Don Fair loves strikes. And
Next week,
it's a lockout.